When I was walking home from Hillsborough just over a week ago, I thought Oxford United were safe. I thought we'd done enough. But as many times in my life, I am a sweet summer child because nothing could be further from the truth. Because Oxford United were terrible today. Oxford United deserved to lose today, and with every other club down the bottom inconceivably winning, it looked like we were right back in the mire. But when we needed it, when we needed a hero, up stepped Cameron Brannagan to score one of the best goals, probably the best goal he's ever scored for Oxford United. He usually scores pretty good ones. Is it the goal of the season? I don't know. Harris scored a good one against Blackburn, but it's certainly, I can't think of many more important ones just when Oxford United needed it, because I don't know where else we were going to get a goal from today. And it just gives us a little bit of breathing room down the bottom with 2 games to go, and really sticks the knife into Cardiff City. And Cardiff fans, you've got to be kicking yourselves, because we were there for the taking today and you really should have beaten us. But you didn't. And somehow, some way, Oxford come away with a point from the Welsh capital. It finished Cardiff City 1, Oxford United 1. And there is very little to talk about in this game, so I'll probably fly through it very quickly, because I can't state this enough. Oxford were garbage pretty much all the way through the game today. Cardiff weren't that much better, to be fair, and it was a pretty poor game of football and a pretty dire advert for the Championship, and no real surprise that both of these sides are down the bottom of the table. There was in fact only really one chance in the first half, and that came after 11 minutes. But a bit of quality, actually, from Robertson. He turned away from Brannagan on the edge of the penalty area, got into the box, squared it back to Willock, who was only about 12 yards out. It was a good chance for Cardiff, but he blazed it high and, well, not wide, but high over the bar. Really good chance for Cardiff early on there. Squandered. Oxford, bit of a let-off. And, yeah, that was about the best that we got in terms of chances. There was another one for Willock, which he curled wide, which I think was further wide than he thought it was. And whilst Cardiff were more on the front foot than Oxford, they really didn't create much. And as for Oxford, we created absolutely nothing. At half-time, being 0-0, Oxford didn't really seem to care about how bad the game was, because a draw is all right from their point of view. And as I say, Cardiff had more intent. They did look dangerous when they came down the flanks, but didn't really test Jamie Cumming at all in the first half. But from an Oxford point of view, once again, you're left pulling your hair out at the quality of our play. Absolutely nothing going forward, banging it forward with aimless balls. When we do have the ball, players really sloppy in possession, just giving the ball away, mishitting simple passes. Plaheta really lucky not to be sent off in this game. He was very niggly against Perry and G all the way through the game. He seemed pretty wound up pretty much right from the start. And it was a terrible late challenge, lunging in, studs up on the Cardiff fullback. Easily could have been a red card. The referee chose leniency, only gave him a yellow. Yeah, really lucky. And there was half a chance for a penalty in the first half of Cardiff as well, which I'm quite glad wasn't given. But as I said, at this point, it's job done for Oxford United. Not great, but it will do. And I wanted Gary Rowett to make changes at the break. He made 2 of them. He brought Matt Phillips and Greg Lee on, so probably not the changes people were expecting, but he did go back to wing-backs. Plaheta, not surprisingly, coming off. I think Peter Kioso came off as well. And a lot of people will be critical of that. For what it's worth, I'll probably state this at the end as well, I was actually quite happy with those changes, but it didn't change Oxford's approach, and it didn't change the quality of their football, and we were just there for the taking pretty much all afternoon, just happy to defend our box at 0-0. But Cardiff found a goal on 57 minutes. Cardiff had a bit of pressure on United, Oxford failing to clear their lines. Cardiff were able to keep the pressure on by putting balls into the box, and it was Willock who floated an in-swinging ball in from the right-hand side, and Salech, who for once got himself up against Bennett instead of being up against Hellick or Nelson, beat Bennett easily in the air and nodded it in from about 10 yards out. Very nice headed goal from the Cardiff forward. Bluebirds fans undoubtedly going crazy in the stands. It felt like a huge goal because you just did not feel Oxford were going to get back into it. And even with 20 minutes to go, Oxford just needed to show some fight because, as I keep saying, they were showing nothing from an attacking point of view. They needed something special. They needed something magical. And on 78 minutes, they got it. And wow, 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 wow. My words can never do this goal enough justice. It is a fantastic, a sublime, a magnificent goal from Cameron Brannagan. Tyler Goodrum won a free kick about 35 yards out from goal. It may have been further back, and he teed up Cameron Brannagan. Cardiff didn't even put much of a wall up because they weren't expecting Brannagan to shoot from there. But my goodness, did Brannagan shoot from there. It's a wonder strike curling away from the Cardiff keeper into the top corner, and Oxford somehow a level in this game. Frustratingly for me, Oxford almost seemed to go straight back on the defensive from that point. They didn't try to push on and get that winning goal, and Cardiff had pressure, but they could not create any clear-cut chances at goal. Oxford were resorting to celebrating any types of free kicks or throw-ins that went their way, and it's Oxford who end up getting an unlikely point, but it could end up being a crucial point. But I'll tell you what, we didn't deserve it. So let's have a little chat about the two teams, starting with the home side in Cardiff City. And if there are any Cardiff City fans watching this, I'd be fascinated to know your thoughts on that game today. There's no ridicule on my channel for the opposition. I genuinely like to know opposition's fans' thoughts on the game, but I'd also like to know your thoughts on the season. It's been a pretty horrible season, and you've still got a chance of staying up. It's still only a win, one win and a draw might keep you up from your final two games. But this was a huge opportunity spurned against an Oxford United side that were there for the taking. A lot of the talk has been about Omar Risa being fired after that Sheffield United game. It did feel like he'd lost the plot, to be fair. And bringing in Aaron Ramsey, it did bring a feel-good factor to Cardiff today. The fans were certainly up to it. Ramsey making 3 changes. I was a little surprised Will Alves was left on the bench, I must admit. But generally, Cardiff showed the intent. They showed the intent to win this game, but you also saw the lack of quality from Cardiff City, which is probably indicative of why you are down the bottom, because Oxford just stood off and let you have the ball, let you kind of come forward and create chances, but you really didn't create much other than that Salech goal. I thought that when he looked motivated, I thought O'Dowda and NG added a lot of spark down the wings, and that was where Cardiff looked at their best. And I thought Oxford did kind of stifle that a little bit when the wing-backs came on like we did against Sheffield Wednesday, but it still opened up the door to Willock, who probably was the key man on the day for Cardiff, to put in that wonderful cross for the first goal. But I was a bit surprised that, yes, Cardiff dominated the lion's share of this game. They dominated the ball. They had the majority of the attacking intent and the chances, but I really thought Cardiff didn't get in Oxford's face enough. I was surprised that Cardiff were quite timid in their press. They never seemed to get up in Oxford. Oxford were crap on the ball anyway, so it didn't really matter. But I was surprised you didn't sort of press our defenders, press our goalie. You sort of seemed to let us come out with the ball. And I was a little bit surprised by that. I thought that could have done more to get the crowd on your side. Maybe it was the right tactic because Oxford just seemed to give you the ball back. But all in all, you're down there for a reason. And, just like Oxford United, you showed a real lack of quality in the attacking third today. And you didn't do enough to win the game, even though you thoroughly deserved it. You should have gone out and put this game to bed by scoring 2 or 3 goals. But do you still feel that you can get out of trouble? Do you still feel you can survive in this league? 3 points behind Luton, 3 points behind Derby. Your goal difference is miles inferior to Derby County, so you've got to get more than a win from these final 2 games. Let me know, Cardiff fans. Good luck for those final 2 games of the season. And that brings me on to Oxford United. And my goodness, did Oxford get away with it today. My goodness, did Gary Rowett get away with it today. Because Oxford were terrible all the way through the game. And we were really lucky that Cameron Brannagan has bailed us out. Playing for a draw pretty much from kickoff. Negative, boring, terrible tactics. No attacking intent at all, other than Alex Matos trying to break up play and run forward. But other than that, players just playing within themselves, playing backwards, playing sideways, playing aimless balls forward. It was a recipe for disaster, and it's really nearly put us right back into serious trouble. Thankfully, we did get that equalising goal, but Rowett made 2 changes for this game, Kioso and Bradshaw coming in, and I don't think it was a bad Oxford United lineup at all. I don't mind those changes, but you know, we don't give Bradshaw anything to play on. We didn't really see the wingers get high up the pitch, and I don't think Kioso really deserved to be hooked at half-time. But if you're going to go to wing-backs, it's not the worst thing in the world. It was good to see Elliot Moore back on the bench. He came on late in the game. That's good to see. Always good to see the skipper back involved. But my goodness, Shemi Plaheta, he had a terrible game. He had a wonderful game against Cardiff at home. He had a real stinker here. He just looked like really wound up and tetchy from the word go, and he was lucky not to be booked early on in the game for dragging a Cardiff player down when he was playing on the right wing, and then he switched over to the left. And it's a horrible tackle. It's a terrible, terrible tackle, and he's lucky not to be red-carded. He really is, and that would have put us right up against it, right with our backs against the wall, and he was a lucky boy that Oxford still had 11 men on the pitch. But Rowett did change it at half-time, changed it to wing-backs, and I actually thought that was a good move. I saw him do that against Sheffield Wednesday, and it seemed to work quite well. We stifled Wednesday and we generally just grew more and more into the game, but we didn't here today. People just weren't able to get on the ball. You did see Goodrum with a couple of nice turns into space when we were 1-0 down. At least he was trying to drive Oxford forward. But other than that, you didn't really see too much from many other players, and you were really scratching your head as to where a goal was going to come from, because the Will Vaulks throw-ins today was not working at all. The Cardiff defenders defended it really well, and whenever it was in there, the referee was just giving a foul against Oxford every single time. But Brannagan's goal is the only thing Oxford fans will remember from this game, because it's a wonder strike. If you haven't seen it, go and watch it, because that's the only highlight for Oxford United in this game. But my goodness, it's one of the greatest goals certainly Brannagan's ever scored, maybe the greatest goal he's ever scored, and it's one of Oxford's finest goals as well. And again, that isn't overselling it. That's probably not doing it justice. There's not too much more to say, but we're still fighting, we're still scrapping hard, and we've still got a 3-point lead to the sides below us. That was looking a lot worse at one point, certainly with Cardiff winning as well. It looked like everybody was around us, but we've got that 3-point buffer with 2 games to go. We still have a better goal difference than both Luton and Cardiff City as well. So the situation is looking at the live table that Plymouth, yes, they can get level on points with us, but their goal difference is so much worse they can't overtake us. That's probably going to be the same for Cardiff as well, although 5 goals can be swung in 2 games. And then Luton and Derby 3 points behind us, which ultimately means we are going to need something from these final 2 games. Now, we do play 2 sides in the middle of the pack with nothing to play for in Sunderland and Swansea, so maybe that will turn around in our favour. Obviously, Sunderland not in the middle of the pack. They're in the playoffs, but they're comfortably in the playoffs, and that's all they're going to get, so maybe they might rest a few players. But we can't really count on that. I'd like to see Oxford really go out for the win against Sunderland next weekend and put this to bed before that trip to Wales again on the final day of the season. But this was horrible. This was a terrible game, and it nearly was an absolute disaster of an Easter Monday. But Cameron Brannagan has just about given us some respectability. But is it enough? Have we now got enough, Oxford fans? I certainly don't think so. And are you confident that we can still beat the drop? My goodness, I can't believe that it is going to need this many points. It was not looking anywhere near that many points a few weeks ago. Those sides down the bottom have really, really done well to claw in the amount of points they have. But we go again next Saturday. It's not job done yet, Oxford fans, but it could be next weekend. It's going to be tense. We knew it was always going to be. And I do get the feeling it is going to come down to the wire. But leave your comments down below. This one was horrible. We just about got away with it. Bye for now.